because the only thing that ban said is in case of the life of the mother is in danger, but does not account for anything else. Does not account for rape or incest. Does not account for ectopic pregnancies. Does not account for any complication that could happen with a pregnant person. And I think we really need to get over this idea that pregnancy is this mystical, Disney fairy tale, when we know it's a very complicated thing, and more than that, it's a very personal thing.
And welcome back. You're listening to Hysteria, the podcast for fans of Arizona State Route 89A, but only if they're not the one driving. In April, the all-Republican Arizona State Supreme Court ruled that an 1864 total abortion ban could take effect in the state. This was met with immediate nationwide backlash from everybody from President Biden to former President Trump. And meanwhile, on the ground in Arizona, those needing abortion care were left in a lurch as state Republicans scrambled to get out from under weeks of bad headlines, and state Democrats tried to protect Arizonans' rights. Our guest today is a Democratic member of the Arizona State House representing a part of Maricopa County, including their hometown of Mesa. They're also the first non-binary legislator in the state after their election in 2022. Representative Lorena Austin, glad to have you back.
So happy to be back. Sincerely, thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad to hear from you today. Okay, so it seems like it's been a pretty wild few weeks in the Arizona State House, to say the least. Can you walk me through what your life as a legislator has been like since the state Supreme Court allowed the ban to go into effect?
Yeah, it has been something that we knew was going to happen. Like this decision was coming out, and the day before, Democratic caucus had gotten together and said the ruling is going to come out the next day and invite us to the governor's office. So a few of us who were able to go to the governor's office that morning when the ruling came out, and then just to feel the energy in the room when some of us elected officials were standing there and just saying it's territorial. I just remember hearing it's a territorial ban, and just the air just let out of the room. And since then, it has been, obviously, as you've seen, kind of just a nonstop conversation around the state and really jumping into action to figure out, what was the best pathway forward. And Democrats knew the best thing immediately to do was to enact the clean repeal. And so we tried that for weeks. And the bill put forth by Representative Stephanie Stahl Hamilton, that first week after, immediately we tried to suspend the rules to put the bill on the board to vote on it, to do the clean repeal, to take away this 1864 Civil War era abortion ban, where the consent for a girl to get married was 10 when we were still enslaving people, when it would have just put every person in Arizona, who was going to potentially be pregnant in jeopardy, literally their lives in jeopardy, would jail doctors, would punish people getting abortions. And so the first week when we tried to suspend the rules to motion and put it on the board, was immediately stopped, immediately recessed. And we tried a few more times that day. And when we realized that wasn't going to happen, I think, it's become quite well known now, the acts of the Democratic caucus to immediately, put the Republicans in check and say shame. And, I think that was the word that went worldwide, right? Like, how can we allow this to happen when a clean repeal would have just taken it back to the 15-week abortion ban that was already in place? Meanwhile, this past whole year, Arizonans have been collecting signatures for Arizona abortion access to amend our Constitution. And so there's been so many pieces happening. Thankfully, last week, the House was able to get it finally on the board, and it did pass. And so tomorrow it is going to the Senate. And so that is where all eyes are currently right now in the state of Arizona, is on the Senate vote tomorrow here in Arizona. So we will see what happens in just almost more than 24 hours from now.
Mm-hmm. So, I'm not going to ask you to armchair psychoanalyze your Republican colleagues, but I'm so curious as to why they let this become such a spectacle when they could have just allowed the vote to happen right away. Like, what do you think is going through their heads, if anything?
I mean, It is shocking, but I think we really need to understand that there's a political narrative and it is extreme. And there are people that do believe that this Civil War era ban should stay in place. Because the only thing that ban said is in case of the life of the mother is in danger, but does not account for anything else. Does not account for rape or incest. Does not account for ectopic pregnancies. Does not account for any complication that could happen with a pregnant person. And I think we really need to get over this idea that pregnancy is this mystical, Disney fairy tale, when we know it's a very complicated thing. And more than that, it's a very personal thing. So we're talking about, medical freedom for a lot of people. But I can say it is so alarming to hear some of the comments from my colleagues from the Republicans. I mean, they absolutely believe in this extremist view that, whatever shall be will be, when this is not 1864, this is 2024. I mean, we have so many, thankfully medicine has come so far, but we still have a long way to go in how, we deliver care for pregnant people in the state. And why would we not allow that care to be given? And furthermore, why would we not allow those personal decisions to be made by the person who is receiving medical attention and their provider and their family and whoever they choose, to be involved in that process. And it should not be legislators, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really interesting point that I think that Dobbs, aka Roe, being overturned really got a lot of Americans thinking about how weird it is to leave bodily autonomy up to a vote by elected officials. Do you think Arizonans, assuming that this 15-week abortion ban passes, this newer, shinier ban, do you think Arizonans will be satisfied with a 15-week ban? Or do you think they just want the government out of their business?
Yeah, absolutely not. I think they want the government out of their business, and which is why this abortion access ballot initiative has been so integrally important. But we also know that there's a scam on the other side coming our way very soon, because the Republicans accidentally leaked their plan to confuse the abortion ballot initiative this year. They accidentally sent it to all the Democratic members as well. And it literally lays out their plan to use referendums, which has been their workaround for the governor this year, for Governor Hobbs. So instead of passing a bill through their majority and having her veto it, they are now sending initiatives to the ballot, because we have that rule here in Arizona. So we know that they are going to send multiple ballot initiatives. And specifically, it says in this scheme that it is to dilute the vote from the abortion access ballot initiative. So we have to be on our guard this election cycle. The ballot will already be extremely long, which I think is to induce voter fatigue. And so this is another thing that we have to, keep at top of mind when we're voting this year, is that there is a very specific scam that they have to make sure that Arizonans do not have bodily autonomy and their rights to make their own medical choices.
Oh my gosh, that is so dastardly. It seems like, despite the sort of cartoonish tomfoolery attempted by Republicans in Arizona, that there's a lot of energy behind the Arizona Abortion Access Act. As a public servant in the state of Arizona, are you seeing that energy reflected in your voters?
Absolutely. I was just at an event this weekend and mentioned that we would have the petition for people to sign, and people from different counties were coming to sign this, ballot initiative, because it is that important. And because I think Arizona voters are not going to be fooled about this election cycle. It has been on top of mind since Dobbs came out. And we do see the Republicans really, really doubling down on this issue, which I think is going to be really disastrous for them in this upcoming election cycle. They're continuing to double down. They currently have filed ethics complaints against a few of our members as well for what happened after they decided not to put the repeal on the board. And so they really are. I don't know. I really don't know. If I was this Republican strategist, I don't know what. It's just an unpopular opinion. It is not something we have seen it time and time again. We saw it in Kansas. We've seen it in other states. People really have strong opinions about this issue. And it's because I think a lot of people either know someone or have personally experienced, something happening with their pregnancy. I know so many people. I know people in my family, regardless of their perspective of thought, on abortion, they firmly believe that decision should be left up to them, that should be left up to, the person who is pregnant and their family and their provider and whoever they want involved in that decision, not government officials.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the changing political landscape in Arizona. Arizona used to be a deep red state. I believe a couple cycles ago, there was a supermajority of Republicans and a Republican governor. But now things have shifted a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about that shift and what Democrats have in mind for once the shift is complete, hopefully, after this next election cycle?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like you said, might be surprised that we've come this far. I know even in my district, I think people are still surprised that someone who looks like me is representing them here in Arizona. But I think that really is telling of the tide shifting. And also generationally, we're seeing a lot of shift, right? We're seeing a lot of younger people being active. We're seeing whether that's through, social media, but they have a lot of information now. And I'm so excited about this younger generation coming, into the fold of civic engagement. They're so smart, they're communal, they care about each other. So I do think we're going to be, seeing a sweeping landscape change here. But I think for Democrats, we want to do very, I believe, common sense things, right? Like invest in our public education. I mean, right now we have universal vouchers that are literally draining our budget without any accountability measures tied to them. The last number I saw was, I think, approximately $750 million that has drained our budget. It'll be upwards of $1 billion soon. It was projected to be only $33 million. And so if we can rein some of these, types of things in, it'll allow us to invest more in our public services. We can actually feed our kids at school for merely $4 million. We can provide those free meals, especially as we're seeing COVID dollars, right, going away. I think we're looking at election protections and integrity. We're looking at, bigger investments in climate change, things that will actually, help everyday Arizonans. I'm running a bill next year again, didn't get a hearing, but that would provide an IRA program at the state level for people who don't receive pensions right now at the state level if you're not a state or government employee, but it's free to the employer, but it allowed the employee to deduct whatever they want from their paycheck into a retirement account, right? So think of our people in the service industry. I worked in, restaurants and grocery stores for a better part of my, adult life, and I never had that option to have a pension or a retirement. So I think just really common sense solutions the Democrats want to put forward that are really going to work for working people here in Arizona.
Well, that is all very exciting. You're running for re-election this year. How's the campaign going? And what have you learned to do differently from your 2022 run?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's so different. I think for me, and people can come at me, I represent the best district in the state. I'm so lucky to
fighting words.
I know my colleagues will come after me hard, but I truly believe that. And I have been so happy and so lucky to, even though I've been in session, these past few years now, to just stay active and involved in my community. It's such a budding, growing community. We're seeing a lot of younger people and families move in, a lot of infrastructure happening, new businesses and really investing in local. I'm so lucky to work with the city of Mesa and city of Tempe, who've just been so supportive and taking the initiatives of things like tackling our climate issues and investing, in solar power or investing in electric vehicles, like city of Mesa is investing in those types of things. And I'm so lucky because of the state, I'm not able to do as many things. So I'm so lucky to work with two cities that are so invested in building our community. But however, I am in the most competitive district in the entire state. So there's nothing closer numbers wise. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of people were surprised that Democrats swept our district. And so I don't know that they were paying as much attention, but they are now. So we are seeing, I think, a lot more fight on the Republican end. But I think, what we've been able to do is really build that community and really, for me, walk my talk. I show up, I speak with our community members. I've been able to meet with so many new small business owners and just really try to be the person that I said I would be, come back and talk to you, not just come knock on your door once because I want you to elect me, but because I actually care. Let's connect you to those community resources. Let's see what kind of, public programs we can help you in. Do you need to, apply for summer camp? Well, you got to do that now, right? Before all the spots fill up. So I think it's just those everyday interactions that I love to have with people. And I'm so grateful I've been able to do that this entire time.
Representative Lorena Austin, thank you so much for joining us today and for giving us a rundown of what's going on in Arizona. We can't wait to have you back after Arizonans have enshrined access to abortion in state law and after you've won re-election. And listeners, head to votesaveamerica.com/fuckbans to learn more about Arizona. I wonder what they think about the bans.
Love it.